Howdy friends and welcome back. Today we're doing sweet treats. Pantry meals for another day. I've had a hankering for something sweet, so let's make something. I don't do a lot of sweet. I'm more of a savory girl, so you'll often see that I will not put icing on cakes because I don't like, that's like too much sugar for me. But I do want something sweet. I will sometimes tell you, or you can add icing to this. That will be today. For our dry ingredients, we need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You can use gluten-free powder, but know and understand that spice cakes are dense and that gluten-free, you don't have to, this might be one of those ones that I would maybe alternate something else. You also need a teaspoon and a half of baking powder because we would like our cake to rise. To that, you're then going to add half of a teaspoon of salt. And we're also going to do half a teaspoon of baking soda. Now, I am not a pastry chef or a baker, to be very honest with you. I am not the girl out there doing all of the, breads and all that stuff. I actually don't particularly care for bread very much. So I often find myself giggling at the way that baking recipes come out. They're too precise for me. It's like science. You need a tablespoon and a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And if you watched my video a couple times ago, you know that I have several jars of open cinnamon, and this is me trying to get rid of them. I'm also at the tail end of my nutmeg, which you need a teaspoon of. And I finish off the ginger, which you also need a teaspoon of. We want that ground. And then you have a choice. You can either add 1/4 of a teaspoon of clove or 1/4 of a teaspoon of star anise, ground star anise. I have both. I don't actually prefer star anise in actual baking unless it is, I don't know, I just don't like it. It tastes sort of, it has a black licorice taste in the back end, and I'm just not up for that. So I normally will use clove. Now I do use star anise when I do my Asian dishes because it is a regular flavor in those items. Once you've mixed your dry ingredients, we're going to get ourselves a new bowl and add 2/3 of a cup of vegetable oil. You can also use canola or avocado oil. I don't like avocado anything, so avocado oil is not in my house. I don't actually know how that would taste, but it is optional if you would like that. Then you need a whole cup of packed dark brown sugar, not light brown. We want dark brown. We're using very potent spices today, and there are several ingredients in here that are going to be there to help make sure that those potent ingredients are not the only thing that you taste today. Dark brown sugar will help mellow out flavor better than light brown sugar. Fun facts. While you are mixing and whisking, I know someone is going to ask me, don't you have a KitchenAid? Why didn't you use a KitchenAid? I do. Mostly because I haven't gotten used to having the KitchenAid. It didn't even occur to me until I started mixing the dry ingredients that I should do that. You need 2 tablespoons of vanilla. And I am whisking in between each of these because the more that we do this is a super, super dense cake. How about a Christmas fact? Did you know that fruit cake is actually a spice cake base with dried fruit added to it and then baked? And that is why it is often a brick. Spice cake is dense. I can't, why you would want to add dried fruit to it and send it away. We say that now, but when fruitcake was a thing, it was actually great because it would last longer, and it was a way for people who didn't have access to fruit to actually get some. Once you've added in your 2 eggs, and remember to whisk them each individually, you are then going to add in half of your dry ingredients. And here's where it gets difficult, and I thought, man, why didn't I use the KitchenAid? That's okay. We have an old school recipe. I actually found this in a cookbook from the 50s that I thrifted earlier this year, and it's tasty. I've made this a couple times now, and I altered the recipe. I'm really bad for that if I don't like it. The actual original recipe called for half of a cup of either applesauce or apple butter. And I don't particularly care for either one of those things because the consistency is mush. Once you've added the first half of your dry ingredients and whisked them well, we're going to add in a half of a cup of sour cream. Now, this is the other ingredient that I was talking about that is going to help mellow out flavors. This is the only dairy item in this whole recipe, and it's really there because sour cream helps you mellow out big flavors. Once you've mixed it in, we're going to add the rest of our dry ingredients. And again, we're whisking that all in. But I mean, as you can see, it's starting to get very thick and very goopy. And here's where we're going to add a 15-ounce can of peach pie filling. In my case, that's a quart, and these are peaches that I canned earlier this season. But if you were going to go buy this at the grocery store, you need a 15-ounce can, or you could do apple pie filling for the same thing. And I'm folding. And I don't want the KitchenAid because the KitchenAid is going to break these very tender pieces of peach up. And instead of having nice pieces of peach, I would have had blended peach. And we're right back to that. I don't feel like I'm getting what I want out of it. I want bites of happy peach. To a bundt cake, bundt cake pan, you're going to add your baking spray. You really want this to make sure that your cake comes out. Otherwise, it might not come out of your bundt cake pan. And you don't want to put a knife in here and get rid of your happy coating. Once you've done a pretty good job of spraying that, we are going to add our happy gloopy mixture. Make sure that you try to make this into the pan as even as possible. Don't just dump it all in one section. You need to tap out a bundt cake to make sure that it's even and that you can help some of the bubbles come to the top. Otherwise, you'll have actual pockets in your bundt cake that are open, and we're not looking for that. You're going to put this in a preheated 350 oven for anywhere from 33 to 38 minutes. I think mine ended up being about 35, but everyone's oven is a little different. Make sure that you test it to make sure that the cake is well done. And once it is, you're going to turn your oven off, set your cake to the side, and come back in about an hour and a half. When you feel like your cake pan is cool, flip it over, and here's what it looks like. Look, you can see the actual individual pieces of peach. This is so tasty. You could make a caramel sauce to drizzle over this, but that's too sweet for me. Enjoy.